Hello, welcome to another episode of the Ignited Fortitude podcast with Bobby, Lolo, and Aaron.
Yes, sir. Lolo back.
I'm back. Yeah, actually, I'm glad I'm back. Yeah.
Where were you at last week, Lolo?
So I kind of like the 10th month or 11th month before I retire. So I'm retiring out of 21 years and plus months of service. So I was in a baseball game. They were recognizing me for my 20 years of service to the Army.
Was it just you or was it a bunch of y'all?
No, it was actually just me.
It was just you?
Yeah, I thought
Who
it was.
set that up?
I do not. Well, Connie, my wife, did. So I don't know.
Awesome.
Yeah, I don't know how she's like. We're going to a baseball game. It got approved. I'm like, what?
Wow.
And so I'm like, okay, well, we just go watch a baseball game because in honor, whatever. But no, like, you're going in.
You getting out there?
Did you have to throw the first pitch or what?
No. So it was after the first inning. So it was actually for a minute. I thought.
Were you in uniform?
No, I was in civilians. Actually, I was with a pursuit shirt, and I'll send you pictures. So you can see. But so for a whole minute in the baseball game of Cubs and the White Sox, and just I don't remember what the guy said, but everybody was standing up and cheering, and
That's cool, dude.
for a whole minute, I was like, man, this minute's taking forever.
That's cool.
That is cool.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Congratulations.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. I don't know how she did it, but yeah.
Hey, she gets after it.
I know. It's like sometimes I don't even. I'm like, they're like, oh, it's Friday, we can go home and relax. I'm like, no, I don't know why. Not for me.
You're like,
I come to work to relax.
right?
We can edit that. It's okay.
Yeah.
She don't listen.
Speaking of relaxing, this is what we're talking about today, right? Comfort, huh?
Yeah, that's a transition, all right.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah.
I was not looking forward to this when y'all mentioned it because I was like, man, why y'all gotta preach at me like that?
Oh, that's funny. That's why you were doing that avoidance, huh?
Yes.
So these guys always talk about these stories that they have, like, oh, the Lord woke me up at 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, wow, like, hey, Lord, like, how come we don't have any conversations? Because you're up at 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, oh, that's
because Bobby's got 4 hours. Like, that's it. Like, Lord's like, bro, you ain't got time. They've got time.
Because it's funny because you'll wake up and you'll like send a text and I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah. Bobby's like, you're awake? Yeah. Like, you, Steve, and Will used to murder me because they all got up early, dude. And like, I'd like, some crazy morning, Lord gets me up. I like read something with tears. Then I like send a text to them, like do this, that, and have a good day. And they're like, and all I get back is like, what are you doing awake? It's hilarious.
Have you not fallen asleep yet?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, crazy.
But it's funny that the Lord doesn't wake you up Sunday mornings so hot early. This guy.
No,
Yeah, I know. Like,
Not like 06 for
no, nope.
not even to do the Lord's work.
The Lord's like, my work can be done at 12 in the afternoon on a Sunday.
there's a Sabbath. You gotta take one day of
I
rest.
just read that. I'm in Leviticus right now. So mess with me.
Yeah, one day of rest.
I will put y'all to sleep.
That's funny. So I was like unsettled in my sleep yesterday, and I was telling the guys, we were like, talking about what we're going to talk about. And like the 3 times that I woke up, it was talking about lazy worship. And I'm like, what in the world? Like that was just like, and the image was always like the Lord cleansing the temple. And I'm like, it's crazy. Because a couple of years ago, I was listening to, I think it was Tim Keller, like talking just about like, kind of like just painting the picture of what was going on during that time. I'm like, wow, that's crazy. You know what I mean? So that's what we're talking about. We're talking about lazy worship. So for context, let's get into it. Matthew 21, verse 12. Jesus entered the temple and began to drive out all the people buying and selling animals for sacrifice. And think about it. They were selling animals for sacrifice. Like, you think, okay. He knocked over the tables of the money changers and the chairs of those selling doves. He said to them, the scriptures declare my temple will be called a house of prayer, but you have turned it into a den of thieves. The blind and the lame came to him in the temple, and he healed them. The leading priests and the teachers of religious law saw these wonderful miracles and heard even the children in the temple shouting, praise God for the Son of David. But the leaders were indignant Always. They asked Jesus, "Do you hear what these children are saying?" Yes, Jesus replied, "Haven't you read the scriptures? For they say, you have taught children and infants to give you praise." Then he returned to Bethany, where he stayed overnight. So there's a couple of places. I think John talks about this early on. So they say that there's 2 times that he cleansed the temple, right? Because in Matthew, this is coming in, the triumphal entry has already has already taken place, right? And in John, when he takes the account, it's like right in the beginning of his ministry that it says. So in essence, he does it twice. But one of the things that, like, in just looking at this, right, like, think of what was happening. When you hear people explain it, it's like, okay, they were, using it as a place to make money off of the people, right? And like, these animals were being used, right, for the purpose of sacrifice. So, like, let's just be on the other side of things, right? Because we can see it from this vantage point, but, like, let's see it from the other side of things. Like, we're selling these animals in order to sacrifice. Like, isn't this a good thing? Aren't we helping people out? Why are you smiling over there?
Because I love when you read the word, especially when he deals with the Pharisees or the Sadducees or the religious leaders. Where is it that he said? What verse was that where he said, and they were indignant?
15.
15. Yep. And he says, but when the chief priests and the scribes saw the wonderful things that he had done, and the children who were shouting in the temple, Hosanna to the Son of David, they became indignant. And to answer your question, it always goes back to the heart, right?
Oh, yeah.
Matter of the heart. What's the phrase you always say?
The heart of the problem is the matter of the heart.
Yes. Yeah. And there it is. Like, the act seems good and right and God honoring, right? But what's going on in the heart?
Yeah. What was it that you had said? You're like, think about it like today. What you had said something.
Oh, well, yeah, like today is like, what do people do most of the time instead of doing what God has commanded us to do to make disciples of the nations? Like, well, I'm too busy and I don't want to impose nobody, so I'm gonna give money to the church and they can go preach. Yeah. They can go do it. Similar to what they were doing in that time. Like, oh, I'll just buy the animal and I'm doing what God calls me to do, which is make an offering, and I'm giving for that. Same thing what people are thinking now, like, I'll just give it to the church and they can go preach.
Yeah.
It's like a separation. You're like separating yourself.
Yeah.
And so, and who makes it? Think about that though, right? But who makes it easy for that to happen?
Those in charge of the church.
Those in charge, right?
Yeah.
So, like, it's a wake up for us, right? Because, like, what are we doing? Because sometimes we can, let's just play. I don't want to use this word, but I don't know any other way to. Let's play devil's advocate, right? In this sense, like, you have these Pharisees, you have these, and it's over a course of time that this has been happening. Yeah. You know what I mean? But think about it, like, hey, we don't want these dirty animals coming into the temple. Right, because people have been traveling all this time, right? So then we can get so legalistic, like, no, everything needs to be clean. And Jesus says, like, you whitewash tombs, right? You clean the outside, but you're full of dead man's bones, right? And so, like, let's just paint that picture where it's like, because the religious leaders, the ones in charge, were the ones facing the different circumstances, and hey, you know what would make this easier?
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, we don't want to inconvenience people, or we don't want to do this, right? Where, like, I believe that comes from a good place, but then what ends up happening? Like, I remember after I got saved, right? Like, this is no, like, diss on the Catholic Church at all. But I remember after I got saved, like, dude, it was like, a legitimate light bulb. It was insane how I've had tried reading the Bible before. Right. And I got saved, and that next Sunday, like, we go to church and I'm like, what? Like, you know what I mean? It's like, wait a minute. Like, everything that was happening, like I completely understood it for the purpose of like the meaning of it, right? Like I can't tell you, like you go in there and you say the Apostles' Creed, you know what I mean, and just like everything that's going on, it's like, dude, I said this all my life, and it meant absolutely nothing, and you know what I mean. And think about it, like if you get to a place where it's like, hey, we need to institute these things for people so that way they can just understand it. So this is where we're like,
You know, once you said that, it's like that the Pharisees were doing this, right? And you know, what are we doing? Before we started, like we were talking, and I was thinking, like, okay, so this is gonna be us, you know, calling to a church. Hey, you know, you need to start, you know, doing your part. Now I'm like, man, I'm not doing my part.
Welcome. Like, bro, that's why I was all quiet. Y'all were like, oh, let's talk about this. And I'm like, oh, man, if y'all wanna.
I'm thinking now, like, I am equipping someone else just to come and sit down in the church.
Yeah.
And just, I'm
So
like,
think about it, because you have to think about it on the current grand scale of the way things are going. What is the hottest, quote unquote, Christian movement? It's health and wealth, right? Those churches are massive, right?
Oh, yeah.
I don't have to name names that everyone knows, like who's who, right? And like what are they selling? What is he or she selling?
Yeah.
They're selling, hey, I'm gonna make this easy for you.
yeah.
Give me your money. I'm gonna pray for you. I'm not going to preach that your sin is what has you in the place where you're at. I'm not going to preach the hard stuff out of the word.
Yeah.
I'm going to preach the easy stuff, that so the fact that you show up here, you don't feel bad when you leave. You know what I mean? No tears, none of that stuff. And I'll pray that because you sat here and because you gave money, now you get to walk away and you will be healthy, wealthy, and wise.
Yeah.
That is what is being sold.
That's true.
And it's not biblical in any way, shape, or form.
No, absolutely not.
But
because it becomes the gospel of you, right?
Yeah. Well, look, good thing you said that, because in Matthew 20, verse 26, it says, I mean, Jesus was talking about, you know, service and how the Gentiles, you know, view their hierarchy and everything. He's talking to his disciples, says, it must not be the same among you. On the contrary, whoever wants to be great, you must be a servant. And whoever wants to be the first must be your slave, just as the Son of Man did not come to serve, but did not to be served, but to serve and give his life. So in the gospel of you is like, we're using kind of like the Gentile mentality, is like, I'm gonna do this, but I'm gonna get all this in return.
Yeah.
it's transactional.
Yeah.
Transactional.
It's
yeah.
100% transactional.
And God's saying, you're being a servant and you're not expecting nothing in return.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's,
How many times have people attempted to be transactional with the Lord? Okay, Lord, if you get me out of this,
Oh yeah, dude.
I will 100%
This will be the
follow
last
you.
time. Yeah, it'll be the last time. That
The Lord's like, liar.
yeah.
They're like, yeah, let me get right on that for you.
Yeah.
I mean, and then sometimes when God allows, you know, takes things away from us, and it's not because you know, he knows we're gonna fail, but like, for example, this story of me, I got in trouble, you know, long time ago, far away. Yeah, and you know, I was facing some time, and I was telling God, like, you know, hey Lord, if you take this away from me, where I don't even have to go in front of anybody, you know, I had my car, you know, a Mustang at that time. Like, I'll give you my Mustang. I'll give it away. Just take it away. And I was like, okay. So, you know, I was going through the process, and then it just disappeared out of the blue. It disappeared, literally, to where it was going to where I was sitting in a car with 3 guys, investigators and stuff like that. And that's when I was praying. I said, I'll give you the car. So then it went away. So then I was like, okay, it went away, good. So I'm giving the car to the church. I'm thinking, and my brother, because my brother was the one that was driving it, and I was like, I have to give it away. He's like, no. And so I was already doubting. I'm like, man, maybe, I should
Oh my gosh.
maybe God didn't want the car.
Oh my God.
But I gave it away just as is. And then I found out, my brother's like, oh, why you gave away the car? But I found out that my brother was taking the car and was racing it, like illegal racing it. And he was like, man, several times I almost crashed with that car.
Wow.
And I'm thinking like, oh, God took it away because you probably would. Good thing I listened. But, and that was an instance where, God answered that prayer, not because he was, because it was a transaction. It's
Because he was doing not because he was doing the barter with.
Yeah, he's done to barter. He was doing because it was, something he was going to do good
For sure.
So,
Well, and that's what's crazy too, because like even like you said, right? Even those people that are preaching health and wealth, like obviously, like we can think of one big name, right? You know what I mean? But there are people that have been saved out of his church.
Are you serious?
Yeah, and like legitimately.
Wow, I
saved.
didn't even know that.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And so it's like, and that's what's crazy because like they're still they're using the Bible, not the way it's meant to be, right? But here's the thing: it's God's word that's not going to return void.
That's
you know
true.
what I mean? So even though the person, like, think of how many pastors, right? Like or like great ministry leaders, right? Have had these ministries that have been used, but they were living this compromised life.
Yeah.
oh, yeah.
Yeah, which is unbelievable. Yeah.
Well,
But go ahead.
if you think about it, I mean, it shouldn't surprise us because what were the two thieves in the cross doing? Mocking Christ. And one got saved out of it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, even in those places where they're preaching, wealth, everything's going to be good as long as you, give your money here or do whatever, his word's still going to come with fruit.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That is true. I always, because that's me and my constant like desire to put the Lord in a box. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And it's like, oh, see, I mean, all that sin and everything that's going on there. How can how can anything good come out of that? And the Lord's like, what are you talking about? Like,
It's all sinful.
yeah.
Like,
and I wash it clean.
exactly. Exactly.
That's good.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
And think about it, like, and here they are, they're fighting for this temple, and then what happens in like 70 AD? Jesus is like, dude, the temple, it doesn't even matter.
No.
They were so proud.
I just read that because I was like reading about the sacrifices and stuff, and I was like, did Jews still even sacrifice? And then like Jews stopped sacrificing when the Romans burned it down in 70, and I was like, oh man.
Yeah, so it's not even.
And the Lord was like, this is going away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and we talked about it, I think when you and I recorded, right? When like all the things that were like building up, right? It's like don't build up hay and what was it, hay and stubble or whatever it is, right? Because there's gonna be a testing. God is gonna test
test
all
by
of our
fire,
works.
yeah.
Yeah, we were talking about that. Like
gosh,
there's gonna be a
yes.
testing of the fire. And think about the temple, dude. Like it's gone.
Oh, yes.
Like it doesn't matter. The Holy Spirit left the temple and they didn't even realize it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's like, hey, we talked about it right before we hit record. Like, yo, if this church, like our building that we have, that we meet in, if it goes away, like, so what? Because guess what? We already had, like, we just talked about it.
Church does not go away.
Exactly. Like, hey, no,
We are the church.
Exactly. We are the church. Like, yes, we get into the habit of like, oh, let's go to church, but it's like, no, let's be the church.
Yeah. Like that is something that I've learned on this journey that we have taken in planning this church. Like one, like Bobby knows this. I'm a big like measure twice, cut once dude, right? And Bobby's like, whoa, I don't measure. So like, it's like complete polar opposites, right? And so like there's this thought process going in when it was me, him, Steve, and Will, and I'm like, okay, are we doing this? Like, what's all this stuff? And I'm trying to research it, because it's like you're starting a church, and like these dudes are just like, yeah, the Lord's got us, let's go. You know what I mean? But there has to be that. There has to be that meeting in the middle of both of that, because it's like, look, Aaron, we can't measure all day, bro.
Yeah.
Like eventually, we just got to cut and put our faith and trust in the Lord in that. And the point I'm getting to is like, so through this process, he's like been just breaking down all those barriers, I guess, that I have of like that I had put up of like, well, no, it has to be this way, and it has to be that way, and it has to be this way, and the Lord's like, no, it doesn't. But you're about to find out. You know what I mean? And it's like week after week, month after month is like just, oh, so it doesn't have to be this way. Oh, so it doesn't have to be that way. Oh, this is how the Lord does his work in spite of us.
Well, I mean, and bring me on board. This is it's good because I would have gone, okay, let's do a mission analysis on this thing.
That's the officer in the room right there, right?
First, and then we.
Yeah.
But the other thing that I realized, and then going with lazy worship is because, we give our excuse like for example, before I was like, no, I need this degree in order to be part of this.
Yeah.
And then that's what the church or the ones attending the church saying, well, I don't have that degree and I don't have that knowledge, so I can't serve.
Yep.
And that comes the excuse with the lazy service. Like, hey, they're doing it because they have that. Like, no, we don't have that.
Hey, do you remember they were fishermen?
Yeah.
I know. And it's like, I'm like, oh, that takes my argument away. Because I was the same way, like back at Calvary, like I was like, oh yeah, man, I haven't gone to that school of ministry thing, and I haven't gone to seminary or anything like that. So yeah, I'll just attend. I'll give some money,
Yeah.
Hey, you want me to flip slides? I'll go back into the media room. I'll flip some slides. It's like, what are you doing?
Yeah, and then guess what? Oh, I feel good about it. Like I did what I was supposed to do, and it's like, you didn't do it. Like that's great. That's great, but
because I looked this up. So exactly, because that's the exact thing, right? Is so Bible verses about worshiping God, and because this is what the Bible and the Lord says, right? Romans 12:1. Therefore, I urge you, brothers and sisters, in view of God's mercy, to offer your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy, like you were talking about, and pleasing to God. This is your true and proper worship. And it's like, oh, so we got to give everything. That's how we worship the Lord. Psalm 66:44. All the earth bows down to you. They sing praise to you. They sing the praises of your name. And it just keeps going on and on. And then like Hebrews 12:28. Therefore, since we are receiving a kingdom that cannot be shaken, let us be thankful and so worship God acceptably with reverence and awe. Like, oh, I've been doing this wrong.
Yeah, dude, and think about it. Worship him with reverence and awe, right? It can get to the place, right, where these guys right here, right, it's like, hey, we don't want those nasty, filthy animals. You know what I mean? Or like, here's the thing. Even if they're good, and that's what, the Bible scholars say, like, even if it was a good animal, they were going to change it anyways.
Of course.
You know what I mean?
For a profit.
Yeah, for a profit. Because guess what? Like, hey, now we have an animal that we got for a cheaper price, and now we'll go and sell it on the back end. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. They were selling it out the back door, right?
Yeah, they would sell it. Yeah, you know what I mean? And so, like, there's all this scheming that they were doing, right, in order to get it. But, like, think about the people. And it goes on both ends, right? It always starts with the leadership, right? Because what does it say? Where does it say that it will begin, the cleansing will begin in the house of...
Judgment begins in the church or the house of the God. The house of the Lord.
Judgment begins in the house of the Lord, right? So that's like, hey, those are for sure like the people. And we always say like, hey, anything that happens is going to be our responsibility. Like we drop the ball somehow. You know what I mean? So like, but for these guys, right, it's like, how can we make it easy? And here's the thing. If we think of the people that were going to the temple once a year to go and sacrifice, right? And they were going to sacrifice. What's going to happen? Oh man, I don't want to take this animal. I don't take these animals. We'll just, you know what? We'll just buy it when we get there. You know what? They're not even going to accept it when we go anyway. So let's just keep our best. Think about it. Let's just keep our best here because they're not going to accept it there. So let's just keep our best and we'll just go and buy it there. And it'll make our journey over there so much easier.
Yeah.
And guess what? The religious leaders, the people made it easy for them to do that.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So then the question is, are we making
Yeah. Are we making it easier? Right? Like,
for it to be lazy worship?
I sure hope that. I mean, because I know how I was before. Like before going to school of ministry, right? Because school of ministry is kind of like my defining like line in the sand of like. That was when I started submitting.
You stepped out of your
stuff
comfort zone.
stepped out of my own comfort zone. And so, prior to that, yeah, it was easy. Show up,
Yeah.
sit wherever I wanted, usually in the back. Listen, give if you want to give, don't give if you don't want to give. Walk out the back, shake a few hands.
yeah.
Yeah.
Done and done.
Yeah. I don't have to deal with anybody. I
Yeah.
don't have to get my life messy. I don't have
Yeah.
to, you know what I mean?
It was yeah.
And here's the thing, anytime you're trying to make following after the Lord easy, it ain't easy. But it isn't.
No, it's
Because
not.
because like you said, you read it in Romans 12. When I offer my body as a living sacrifice, think of that. Like, think of this, like you're laying this animal, right? The sacrificial system, like you're laying this animal and giving it. Like, are you doing that with your own body, your own life, your own everything, right? Where we're talking about our money, our time, our free time, you know what I mean? Are you laying that and giving that up? Because it's easy for us to be like, oh yeah, I'll give that up for the Lord. Well, but will you live for Him? That's different, right? Like it'd be easy. Somebody's gonna bust through these doors, like, dude, are you believer? Yep, we're all believers. Cool. It's easy to die for Him, but are you going to live for Him?
That's the hard one.
The living part. Is
Yeah,
hard.
living is because it's disruptive to what I have believed up until now is my level of comfort that I want to be in. You know,
And it's not a single point of action either, right? It's a constant point of action.
constant in everything.
Yeah.
It's everything.
Yeah.
Home, work,
Yeah.
vacation. Bro, I was walking today and I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, when I go on vacation, guess what? I try to like go on vacation from everything. And it's like, you can't go on vacation from being a Christian, you retard. like what are you doing? Like, no, you're supposed to be serving the Lord there too.
Yeah.
Like you don't just quit on the Lord for a couple of days when you go on vacation.
Yeah.
Oh, what? Yeah, bro. Yeah, that one hurt.
Well, look what 1 Peter chapter 1 verse 13 says. Therefore, with your minds ready for action. So you're always thinking about it. You're always ready. And said, be serious and set your hope completely on the grace to be brought to you at the revelation of Jesus Christ.
Keep going.
Well, it says, as an obedient children, do not conform to the desires of your former ignorance.
Bro, this is Peter, dude.
Oh, yeah.
Like, this is Peter, dude. Like, think about it. This is Peter. So you must live as God's obedient children. Don't slip back into your old ways
Yeah.
of living to satisfy your own desires. How were you living in your old ways? Oh, you were satisfying your own desires.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Even in the church.
Yeah, of course, dude.
If we were like Sunday and then or Thursday or Wednesday, depending on the church, and then go back to watching whatever I want to watch.
My mom used to blast me. She'd be like, whenever they would come to visit at Stillbird here, she'd be like, hey, what time are y'all going to church today? And like, I'd be like, Mom, how many times do I have to discuss this with you? If it's football season, we're going to early service. She's like, you ought to be ashamed of yourself. And I'm like, I'm still going to church. Bro, that's what we're talking about.
Lazy
Like,
worship.
yes.
Don't want to say it more.
Yeah, cause, bro, like, yeah, I gotta move it. I can't miss football.
Sunday, Bobby. Sunday.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Wow. Yeah. This is why I didn't want to have this discussion.
Well, I mean, I'm thinking like, because I mean, I do my study with the boys, right? You know, like, am I making it too easy for them? Like, so they can be like, oh, all we have to do is go to church, listen, or at home, listen, and then that's it.
Yeah. No.
You teach them at home, right?
Yeah.
Then you're not making it too easy on them. Trust me.
Well,
You know how many people are not teaching anything of the Lord to their children in their home?
Right, but I don't want them to. I mean, how can we not make it to where it's too easy for them? Like, call them out on.
Yeah, you have to. You have to call them out on it.
Yeah.
Like, hey, are you being obedient children
Yeah.
to this, right? Because here's the thing. Like, for our kids, right? Like, perfect example. Let's talk about the Ten Commandments, right? Like, there's a lot on the Ten Commandments that my boys, they're like, you know what I mean? They're not going to experience right now. You know what I mean? But guess what? Honoring your mother and father, you're never too young, right? That's what you need to be doing. You know what I'm saying? And calling them to that. And having, like, we have to do that to our kids. And obviously, like, yeah, like, our kids are going to see us live it out. But the one that, like, for me, like, I don't know, just, like, has always been highlighted is looking at Eli and his sons, right? You know, and Samuel.
Oh yeah.
Right? Think about it, right? Like, and especially for us, right? We're in ministry, right? And so, like, how do we need to be careful because our kids come to us at church, you know what I mean? And they're able to, like, oh, yeah, we can, you know, we're there or whatever, and we're here and we're serving. But, like, our kids will push the line. I'll never forget, dude, when I first, like, started and I got on staff at my previous, right? Like, my boys were like trying to, you know, like, hey, these kids can't, you know, they couldn't be in the sound booth and everything else because everybody just wants to get in the sound booth, right? The kids ministry and stuff. And one of the boys was like, you can't be in here. And one of the kids was like, oh yeah, who said? And we're like, well, my dad's the pastor, and so I'm in charge. I'm in charge of you, so you can't be back here. And I had to get my son like, look, you know what that means? Like, me being in leadership means absolutely nothing. Don't you ever, you know what I mean? Because I don't do that to anybody.
Right.
I mean, don't you ever do that, because you know what that means? That means that we need to be here and we need to clean the toilets. We're the ones that have to pick up after everybody. That's what is being in leadership looks like.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And
Service.
so, yeah, but when you feel like you're entitled, you want to talk about Eli and his sons. That's where they get it. What were they doing? Oh, you know what? We're going to get the best cut of the meat. And they were taken from the people. They're taken from the Lord.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so, yeah, for sure. Like, we have to call our kids to that because, yeah, we can. Hey, you know what? Like, one thing with my kids, like, I always told them, like, if I ever say you guys have every right to check me, don't ever, like, I'm never going to tell you, like, you need to do what you're supposed to be doing because we are leaders in the church. I don't care. Like, you need what you need to be doing because you have to answer to the Lord.
Right.
And I have to answer to the Lord for the way that I'm raising you up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you think Eli was, you know, had a lazy service?
100%.
And that's why his children were.
Yeah, because what does the Lord say? The Lord tells Samuel, go tell Eli, because you didn't discipline your kids. Now I am going to discipline you. Yeah, and that is a lazy worship. Yeah, and think about what they were doing. Yeah, think about that where they were. Because here's the thing. Think of Eli's role. Being the priest, right? Like, hey, we got to open up the doors. We got to set up the coffee. Like, think about everything that we do, right? Like, hey, let's make sure that we're vacuuming the carpets.
Funny.
You know what I mean? And so we're doing all these things, but guess what's on the back end? Like, hey, people bring in food. Let's eat this. Let's do that. You know what I mean? Let's do this. Or like, oh, there's somebody left money here. You know what I mean? Like, those are things that we're like, think about them, right? Doing that duty work, and it's like, no, like, we need to have the integrity because this is not ours. This is the Lord's, and we are taking care of it. Yeah. So yeah, absolutely, it was a lazy worship. And Eli, and here's the thing, like, Eli being obedient and raising his boys and disciplining them, right? Because it's easy. Come on, like, let's just be honest. Like, it's easy for us to, like, feel bad because being in ministry, we're taking our kids, we're taking our family. Like, right now, you guys are taking time, right? Like, you should be at home with your kids, but you're taking the time. We're doing the podcast, and it's like all this time that we spent just today, right? And it's like, oh, I feel bad for my kids because it's always church, it's always this. So then we start, like, allowing things to slip, where it should be like, no. Like, it doesn't matter. Yeah. Like, that's not how we behave and how we act.
No, that's good. I like that.
So then on the church, how do we call the church not to do lazy worship?
Well, one, not make it easy, right? Where we do everything for the people,
Yeah.
right? We should be raising servants is what we're supposed to be doing,
Yeah.
right? Like, it's important for us to serve the people 100%, but like, we need to be encouraging people to serve, one, calling people to repentance. Like, hey, you know what? Like, this is what it says. Like, hey, it's talking about sin. Like, we're not going to brush over sin. Like, hey, gossip in the church. Dude, I was just reading this. It was crazy. I was just reading this in 2 Corinthians, and I'm like, my goodness. 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 20. This is where it says, Paul, this is 2 Corinthians. Paul says, for I'm afraid that when I come, I won't like what I find and you won't like my response. Boom. Like right there, already automatically. You know what I mean? Paul's telling him, he's not like, hey, oh, you know what? It's all good. You guys are meeting, you know, like your giving's up and your this is that. And you guys, you know, like, no. He didn't care anything of that. You're not going to like what my response is. He says, I'm afraid that, and listen to what he says. I'm afraid that I will find quarreling, jealousy, anger, selfishness, slander, gossip, arrogance, and disorderly behavior. Yes, I'm afraid that when I come again, God will humble me in your presence and I will be grieved because many of you have not given up your old sins. You have not repented of your impurity, sexual immorality, and eagerness for lustful pleasure. How do we help our congregation out? Hey, like, no, that's gossip right now. And according to this, like, hey, if you have an issue, then we need to fix it. You know what I mean? Like, hey, let's talk, but we're not going to talk bad about another ministry. We're not going to talk about, you know what I mean, other people. You know what I mean? Like, hey, somebody's living and what does it say? Right there, you got disorderly behavior. No. Like, no, that's not okay. And here's the thing, like,
Promoting righteousness.
You said it, dude.
You said
it before we started recording. Holiness, right?
Yes.
Well, yeah, I was going to read the verse 15 of 1 Peter chapter 1. It says, but as one who is called you holy. Who calls you holy? God calls you holy. You should also be holy in all your conduct. For it is written, be holy, because I am holy.
There you go.
And what is a holy conduct?
Holy. Separate.
Separate.
Not of the world. It shouldn't the church shouldn't look like the world.
Yeah,
No, it should not.
You know, and so what it's happening, and here's the thing, like all this stuff right here, jealousy, quarreling, anger, selfishness, all that stuff, that's what the world does. That's at your work.
Yeah.
Like, is that not at your work?
Yeah.
Yes.
You have other officers that are trying to backbite other, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
In order to step on each other, like you being in contract, you know what I mean? Like that's why is that happening in the church? But for the sake, dude, I'm gonna read this Worsberry quote. I'm like, get out of the picture, watch it.
Oh, yeah.
So like, I read this. I had the guys read this, and then I read it during
That was
our study. And here's what ends up happening. Let me get to it. James, right here. This is what he says, right? Because we're talking about like holiness, purity. And so James says, man's wisdom leads to competition, rivalry, and war. But God's wisdom leads to peace. It is a peace based on holiness, not on compromise. God never has peace at any price. The peace of the church is not more important than the purity of the church. I'll go back to that. If the church is pure, devoted to God, then there will be peace. And the work of righteousness shall be peace. And the effect of righteousness, quietness, and assurance forever. The church can never have peace by sweeping sins under the rug and pretending they are not there. Man's wisdom says, cover up sin, keep things together. God's wisdom says, confess sins, and my peace will keep things together. So here's the thing. How do we get laziness, right? And it's hard, right? Especially like, think of like big ministries. Like I feel bad for like big ministries where it's like, because it's like, we need to keep the doors open. We have a payroll, right? We have all these things that we have to meet. So like, we need to be careful on speaking about this. Like, I don't want to, like, I know that this person is got this craziness going on, but they're one of the biggest givers in the church. Like, we probably don't want to like go against what they're, because if we lose them, right?
Because you don't want to offend.
Yeah, dude, and when that causes lazy worship,
100.
where it's like, hey, you know what? Like, sorry.
Because whoever that congregant is that they're talking about, they're like, well, yeah, I paid my dues, so that I don't have to have you make me feel uncomfortable when I'm sitting in this pew seat.
Well, yeah, and guess what? Now you've become a hireling. I'm gonna pay you. I'm gonna pay you to keep your mouth shut.
Oh man.
Think about it, dude.
Yeah, because here you go. Because what is worship? John 4:24. God is spirit, and those who worship him must worship in spirit and truth.
Spirit and truth. And there's a lot of ministries, dude. There are a lot of ministries that they're all truth, but there's no spirit, right? Like, right? It's all truth. It's all Bible. It's all like, like think about it. And there's no spirit.
There's a lot of emotion and no truth.
Exactly. All spirit, right? Oh, the Lord give me a message today. Like, no, dude, I need you to open up your Bible. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want, like, I don't, you know what I mean?
I've been to a church like that, and I was like, hey. Like, we leave, and I'm like talking to a young, and I'm like, hey.
We're dancing on the way out of here.
Did you see him open his Bible? She was like, he had a Bible? I'm like, bro. Yeah.
Yeah, and so that's the thing. It's got to be spirit and truth. You know what I mean? And we have to be calling people to that higher state. Why? Because, dude, like,
because God calls us to it.
Yeah, like, hey, we've been military, right? Come on, like, there's like, hey, if you want to be the best of the best, there are things that need to, like,
standards.
There are standards.
Yes.
So what standards are we keeping? Because guess what? There's a whole standard of. Here's the thing: we can't worship God any way we want.
No.
You can't. You cannot worship God.
What, Cain?
Exactly. That's Cain, right? Saul, right?
Yep.
Saul's like, no. Hey, you know what? Like, no, we're gonna use these animals and we're gonna worship the Lord with it.
Aaron's sons.
Oh yeah, Aaron's sons. Yeah.
Did you know he was not allowed to mourn them? Moses was like, don't do it. He was like, this is what the Lord said.
Yeah.
And this is what the Lord said was going to happen. I had to read that a couple of times, then go to a commentary because I was like,
And think about whose sons it was. It was Aaron's sons. What was Aaron doing? What did Aaron do?
What do you mean? He was a priest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what happened when Moses in the Exodus went up to the mountain?
The calf.
He worshipped the calf.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying? Do you, like Eli again, right? Like Eli and his sons. You see what I'm saying? Aaron and his sons.
Yeah.
And that's why it's
Sins
important.
of the father.
There you go, right? Like we cannot compromise.
Yeah, you're right. 100% compromise. Yep.
And that's what it said right there, right?
Yeah.
The church cannot compromise
No.
in order and again, right, to keep peace. Sometimes we feel, and we talked about this before we were recording. Sometimes we feel like, oh, in order to keep the peace, let's just, you know what, like, all right, like let's just agree to disagree and not no. Like if we agree to disagree and it's something over something that's like for sure sinful, we are not helping. And now the enemy has a foothold to get his way
Because that's unbiblical. That's not based in biblical truth at all.
No.
Oh man, I think you either Harleen or you struck me when this worship thing, because it just struck me like a bolt, like in chapter 4 of Matthew, and I was reading it earlier than yesterday. So chapter 4 is Matthew is when Jesus being tempted. Verse 9. Satan said to Jesus, I will give you all these things. He was showing them the whole world, right? If you fall down and worship me. This lazy worship is kind of like telling I will give you the money. I'll give you, just tell me I'm good, preacher.
Yeah.
Tell me I'm holy. Don't call out my sins.
Yeah.
Tell me a good sermon.
Yeah.
And then it was like, that's what the devil did. That's what we do every time in church. So like, that's why they don't want a Bible, a sermon that is calling them to holiness. Fall down and worship me.
Yeah.
Fall down and just tell me that I'm good and I'm good.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want this other service, like when, to be holy. And that's all like,
Well, look at his answer. Then Jesus said to him, "Go, Satan, for it is written, you shall worship the Lord your God and serve him only." That's his answer. No, you worship God and God alone.
Yeah.
And if you're doing anything else, you're dead wrong.
Yeah, because the means that the devil was using, right, was really ultimately to serve him.
Yeah.
Jesus, to serve your own self,
Yeah.
right? Hey, turn these stones into bread, right? Hey, serve yourself. Like, you can do it. Like, nobody needs it. You know what I mean? Like, who's it going to hurt? Go ahead, take it for yourself.
yeah,
You know what I mean? And that's always, and again, right? Like even what you just said, right? Here's the money. Give me a good sermon. What do you want him? You're using that as a means to serve yourself.
yeah.
That I'm okay. You're not okay. We're not killing it.
There it is.
yeah. I think one of the things that I'm gonna start doing, like when I meet other Christians, like even at work, I'm gonna ask them like, "What did you do for the Lord today? He gave you a day."
That is an excellent question.
And then I'll be
I think I'm
mine.
gonna ask the dude in the mirror that in the morning.
Yeah, or even at night, like,
Or
what
at
did
night,
you do?
yeah.
What did you do
What
for
did
the
you
Lord?
do for
Yeah,
the Lord
and here's
today?
the thing. Yeah,
Did you
yeah.
earn your time?
Well, did you make good use of the
Your
time?
time, yeah.
Right? Did you make it? Because we don't work for it; we work from it, right?
Yeah.
But and I know what you're saying, but I do think also like, hey, it does begin with us.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Because this through James, right?
Oh, my
This is in that
gosh,
mirror
bro.
where
Yeah.
it's like, dude,
Oh, yeah.
like, because there's plenty of times like that's that whole like that speck in the log,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Like, dude, I know I didn't do what I should have done.
100%.
The book of James, I think, is like a when you go to school and you get a midterm and they're the teacher's telling you, hey, this is what's gonna be in the class, this is what's gonna be, and you're like, oh man, I gotta study this. The book of James telling you, hey, this is what's good. When you're gonna get judged, you're gonna get judged.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
is what you should. And then you're
100.
like, oh my God, I'm not doing this.
Yeah.
It's like the Cliff Notes. He ain't, it's straight meat, bro.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
He's like this, and I'm out. And we're like, whoa, that's short. That's
Yeah.
compacted. He's like, yeah, let's get after it.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, but yeah, I think one of the things that I'm gonna ask the guy in the mirror and other friends and be like, what have you done for the Lord today?
That's good.
So that's just me.
I like it.
And then even in the morning, what are you gonna do for the Lord today? The Lord wills. What are you gonna do?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
Don't be lazy.
don't be lazy. Don't lazy worship. And it's
That's difficult for me. Pray for me.
well, it's difficult because even like you were talking about, God waking us up in the middle of the night, and it's I say it, but I don't say it as a form of victory or something. I say it because
Yeah.
I'm like, because I didn't get up. I just got on the knees on my bed and I started praying on my bed. I'm like, and I think God's telling me, get out of bed.
Oh yeah,
And
it's
get
not a
out of bed.
badge of honor.
No.
like the Lord's
I'm
like, Aaron, you ain't spent enough time with me. Get up. Yes, Lord.
Yeah.
like Pastor, you're
Yeah,
good.
you're good.
You're
That
spending
means
a
you
lot
might be
of time.
spending
You're
too
spending
much
a lot of
time.
time.
No,
with
don't
the
be
Lord.
saying no. Don't be saying that because that's not. No, don't do it. That's gonna put me. That could be
I'm
lazy
joking.
worship.
Like, oh my God,
was just
this
a
guy
check.
said it.
We was just checking in.
Yeah. Make sure you're home.
Yeah, maybe he was telling me like I'm lazy worship, right? Like, oh
Yeah,
shoot, maybe I
no.
should have looked at it a different way. You know?
Well, that's the
Because
thing,
it's
man.
usually it's never when I'm quote unquote killing it.
Oh, yeah.
When the Lord gives me the kick in the morning.
Yeah.
It's like that slow fade has started, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then it's like, what? I'm up? Why am I? Oh.
Yeah,
That's why I
we need
love
to talk about this. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, 100. You've been avoiding me, and so now I'm not going to let you avoid me anymore.
I'll
You can lay
wake you
there.
up.
You can lay there, stare at the ceiling if you want. You ain't going back to sleep.
That's funny.
right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Shoot.
So the sermon that I thought it was for someone else, it became for me.
I tried to warn you before we started.
I was like, yo,
Yeah, well,
let's do
listen.
this.
I
Bring
was
some.
like, oh, this is what we want to do, fellas? Okay.
I'm like, bring some brimstone, bring some fire. I'm like, wait a minute, I got no protection.
yeah, dude, you better duck. You better duck and cover.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
Well, I guess if that's the case, Lolo, you can pray us out then.
Yes, please do,
Oh
brother.
yes.
Please do.
Oh, our Father, how great are you, and how thankful we are that we can, enjoy in your word and showing us what we lack, and basically calling us out. Because either though, other people might think that we're killing it, you're showing us that we're not killing it. That we need to trust more in you. And for those listening, for those out there, Lord, I pray that you also convict them to continue on the pursuit, like Peter said, to have our minds ready to do your will. That every morning we may wake up and ask our question, what am I going to do for the Lord today? The Lord, creator of the universe, gave me another day. How am I going to use it for his glory? Did that be in our hearts every day? That'll be in our hearts every day of this week and every day of the coming week, Lord. And that we may rejoice at the trials, that we may rejoice at the triumphs that you allowed us to go through and allow us to enjoy. And that every day our works will be tested by your word, by fire, that we can know that you are still working on us and still leading us. And Lord, I ask all this for your glory and honor in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Amen.